Hello everybody, I am Chris Baker from LuckyGunner.com, and today I'm going to talk about the new Smith Wesson Ultimate Carry J-Frame revolvers. These are offered exclusively by the firearms distributor Lipsey's. They've got 4 different models to choose from: a 5-shot 38 Special or a 6-shot 32 H&R Magnum. Both calibers have 2 finish options: a black finish with cherry grips or a stainless finish with gray grips. They are all based on the classic Smith & Wesson double action only airweight design. That's an aluminum frame with a steel cylinder weighing 16.6 ounces unloaded. The MSRP for all models is $759. Lipsey's loaned us this 432 UC for this review. That's the 32 model with the black finish. It's very similar to the gun I carry most days, an old 332 Ti, which has been out of production for almost 20 years now. So I am square in the middle of the target demographic for this gun, but you guys know I'm not going to pull any punches. If this thing stinks, I will tell you. Fortunately, it does not stink. This is a really good J-frame, so let's get into it. This project started when Lipsey's approached Smith & Wesson with the idea of a J-frame with features that serious defense-minded shooters have been asking about for years. They got input from Daryl Bulkey and Brian Eastridge, a couple of guys who possess a deep understanding of the fighting revolver. So this is not just marketing hype. The Ultimate Carry project is a legitimate attempt to offer the best possible J-frame. Smith & Wesson has been making J-frames since like 1950. They've produced hundreds of variants over the years. There are, I counted, no fewer than 38 different J-frames in their regular catalog right now. That doesn't include the distributor exclusives like this one. So I wouldn't blame you for being tempted to ignore the Ultimate Carry J-frame, because what else could they possibly do with this gun that hasn't already been done? Well, one thing they've never done before is put decent sights on a lightweight model. They've done proper sights on a steel gun like the 640 Pro, for example. It's an excellent shooter, but it's an all-steel gun and it weighs over 22 ounces. It's not quite as convenient to carry as the Airweight and the Air Light models. For those guns, Smith has occasionally stuck a fiber optic tube or a white dot on the front, but usually it's the traditional ramp sight, and they all have the basic shallow trench in the top strap for a rear sight. So the standout feature of the Ultimate Carry J-frame is the sights. In the front we have a pinned XS night sight. It's a tritium vial with a bright green neon ring around it. In the rear, we've got a dovetail cut with a windage adjustable black serrated U-notch. Now, normally I am not crazy about U-notch rear sights or round profile front sights. It's challenging to get a really precise sight picture with them. For a J-frame, honestly, I don't care. I just want something I can see. These are as easy to pick up in my eye line as the sights on a full-size duty pistol, and that alone makes this gun a whole lot more usable than the standard off-the-shelf J-frame. But personally, I am just as excited about the fact that they are offering this gun in 32 H&R Magnum. Before this year, no revolvers in that chambering had left the Smith & Wesson factory since, I think, 2005. I can't really blame Smith for having neglected 32 H&R Magnum. It's not a popular cartridge. Like when I picked this gun up, the younger guy behind the counter said he had never even heard of it before. And that's really a shame. The only reason 38 Special became the default snubby cartridge is because cops 50 years ago wanted to use the same ammo they had for their duty guns. For the armed citizen today, 32 just makes a whole lot more sense if you're going to carry a lightweight revolver. I won't try to sell you on 32 today. You can go watch the video I did a while back called Why the Best Snub-Nose Caliber is 32. Actually, since you're already here, I am going to try to sell you on it. Basically, you get 6 shots in the cylinder instead of 5. With a 2-inch barrel, the ballistics are similar to 38 Special, but with around 60 to 70% of the recoil, maybe even less depending on your ammo choice. Models chambered for 22 long rifle or 22 Magnum are also viable low recoil alternatives to a 38, but because of the way rimfire ammo is designed, those revolvers always have heavier triggers. A 32 gives you low recoil and the less heavy trigger of a centerfire model. The only downside is the cost and availability of ammo. Most stores don't carry it, so you pretty much have to order it online, and even then the selection is limited. .32 H&R Magnum is almost never less than like $1 per round. But you can also fire .32 short and .32 long out of these guns. .32 long in particular is relatively plentiful and reasonably priced. It's not like the mainstream calibers, but it's also not going to bankrupt you to buy a few hundred rounds. It actually used to be a very popular cartridge in the US. There are still millions of revolvers out there from the 20th century chambered for .32 long. It's still fairly common in other parts of the world, so the ammo companies are not going to abandon the cartridge anytime soon. You can practice with .32 long and carry .32 Magnum. The Magnums do have a little more felt recoil, but it feels more like a .32 plus P. It's not a huge leap in recoil like .38 Special to .357 Magnum. If you're still not sold, that's okay. That's why the Ultimate Carry J-frame also comes in .38 Special. Okay, there are a lot of other features here, so let's keep moving. The grips, they are made from G10 by VZ Grips. G10 is a lightweight fiberglass composite material. I'm very impressed with these grips. They're wide enough to get a solid grip, but short enough to conceal easily. VZ makes several other grips for J-frames, but these were designed specifically for the Ultimate Carry J-frame. There is no checkering or other aggressive texture. They're smooth, but not slick. The left side is relieved a bit for using speed loaders. They are a boot grip design, meaning the bottom of the grip panels is flush with the bottom of the grip frame. They also wrap around the back strap, which I really appreciate because that means the trigger reach is increased just the right amount for my hands. It's a high horn design, which means this back portion goes all the way up to the top of the back straps. A lot of J-frame grips stop right here level with the cylinder, so your strong hand thumb ends up riding right on the top of a hard edge. You can see here on these Crimson Trace grips, which I really like in general, they stop a little too low and the rubber has started peeling away here in this corner because that's where my thumb rests when I'm shooting. That's not really an issue here on this gun because the grips go all the way up to the top. They also fill in this area here right behind the trigger guard, which is another detail that a lot of other J-frame grips don't get quite right. Of course, grip fit is a very subjective thing, but if you fall somewhere close to the middle of the bell curve for hand size, I think these are going to work pretty well for you. No J-frame treatment would be complete without some attention to the trigger. The marketing copy says that Smith & Wesson has, quote, optimized hammer and trigger geometry and springs for a lighter, smoother trigger pull. I don't know exactly what they mean by optimized geometry, but this is a bit lighter and smoother than a standard J-frame. It's not quite as light as some of the Performance Center J-frames that I've handled in the past. It's also not quite as light as a J-frame with an Apex trigger kit installed. J-frame triggers tend to vary a bit from one sample to the next, so I don't know how this particular trigger on this gun compares to other Ultimate Carry models. If you get one of these and it's not quite as smooth as you would like, maybe you could try the Apex kit or just dry fire it a bunch and it should smooth out to be at least a decent trigger. Okay, so sights, grip, trigger, those are the areas where a snub nose typically has the most room for improvement, but they didn't stop there. They've added a few additional touches. The charge holes are chamfered. That's where there's a slight bevel on the inside edge of each chamber. It really helps cartridges slide in there a little easier, especially when you're using something like wad cutters. The front of the cylinder is also beveled. That's not something you're likely to notice a whole lot if you use a Kydex holster like I do, but for something like a snug fitting leather holster, the bevel helps the gun to slide into place a little easier. And lastly, they have made some durability improvements. Specifically, these pins here that hold the gun together, they are titanium instead of the usual aluminum. I put about 500 rounds through this gun at the range, a mix of .32 long and Magnum. I don't have a whole lot to report. It worked. Recoil was tame, as expected. According to Lipsy's, the sights are set up to hit point of aim with Federal 85 grain jacketed hollow point or Buffalo Bore 100 grain wad cutters. We did not have any of the Federal load to test, but I did confirm that the sights are zeroed for the Buffalo Bore. In fact, The sights were pretty much dead on for every load that I tried. There was some variation in the point of impact, but at 15 yards, if I covered the center of a B8 bullseye target with the front sight dot, I could keep nearly all of my shots in the black, regardless of ammo. If you're interested in the 38 version, those sights are regulated for the 135 grain plus P gold dot and 148 grain lead wad cutters. That is a small but important detail. A lot of 38s will only hit point of aim if you use something like 158 grain loads, but wad cutters and gold dots are favorites among snub nose aficionados, so that's a much better zero. I did a lot of work from the holster and shot several drills with this gun. Without a doubt, these sights are far superior to not only the standard J-frame sights, but probably the factory sights on any other small frame revolver on the market. The grips exceeded my already high expectations. They are thicker and fill my hands better than most grips. It's easier to get a more consistent grip on the gun out of the holster. The G10 material lets you make micro corrections to your grip as you're getting up on target. That's one of the reasons I like the G10 grips on full-size revolvers. Rubber is nice for a little recoil mitigation on the smaller guns, but it's not really necessary with the 32. I don't know whether the 432 UC will replace my old 332 Ti as my everyday carry gun. The 332 has a titanium cylinder, so it's about 5 ounces lighter, and the trigger is nice and broken in. It's right where I want a J-frame trigger to be. But I could really go either way. If I had to switch to the 432 for some reason, I wouldn't complain at all. Carrying a small revolver in 2024 is not for everyone. They tend to make the most sense for people on opposite ends of the skill curve, either the relatively inexperienced or well-trained and skilled shooters. The Ultimate Carry J-frame has features that shooters in either category should be able to appreciate. They are definitely worth considering. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If so, do me a favor, and the next time you need some ammo, be sure to get it from us with lightning fast shipping at luckygunner.com.